Jeremy Loops is not only an Mzansi musician who is loved by many here at home and across the world, but he is also humanitarian at heart, who's identified a social crisis at the heart of the COVID-19 pandemic here in South Africa. He joins us in the loft now to talk about these efforts, life in lockdown, and his upcoming music. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Yo! How you doing?
I'm good. I'm loving that energy and I'm loving that top band. Looking fab as always.
You. Well, nice to be here.
Now, you've been on lockdown longer than most. Please may you share why you've been on lockdown for so long and before the rest of us.
Well, I've been writing my third album now for some time. So I finished all my worldwide touring last year. At the end of the year, we had a big year traveling the world and did a big tour in South Africa as well. And, after 2 years of touring my second album, it was time to write my third album. And so, I block booked the whole of December and January. Basically, January and February were all block booked just to write my album and be in my home studio. And so it was nice. I spent January and February just at home, basically locked in my studio day after day for 8 weeks. And wrote all the songs and recorded a bunch of stuff. And just as I was done, this crisis hit and we went into lockdown, and I basically went straight from being in my own lockdown at home to basically being forced into lockdown at home. So it's been a long year inside for me.
Now, there are some interesting facts that our viewers and our fans might not know about you, like one that includes you burning down your family home. Can you share that story with us, Jeremy?
Whoa, yeah, okay, that's real. One very unfortunate day, I'd been at some disco party the night before, and I left these 70s style synthetic white bell bottoms over a heater, and they caught a light and they lit my room on fire, which led to the whole house basically catching a light. And all the kids had gone to school. My mother had taken us to school. I was maybe 15, 16, and my dad was left in the house to fend for himself and fight for his life. And it was all a very close call and very scary, but it was definitely quite something. My dad and I had a few months to try and get over that.
Growing up when you get into trouble, people just say, I'm telling on. Okay, we are not saying that South Africans now must just go be reckless and leave things on heaters, it being winter and people are cold.
Don't.
Yeah, let's be responsible with everything in the household and with ourselves and our family. I mean, it is Youth Month. It is the month of June, Jeremy. So what message would you like to send to the youth?
I think what I would say to everyone right now is, we're just going through such an interesting time historically. And it might never happen again. This is quite an interesting moment. And I think my message is just that people take this time to really figure out what they want to do, who they want to be, because there are no rules now. Your career or your job or what you're interested in, it might not even be around at the end of this pandemic, So trying to figure out really what you want to do and what your purpose and your value might be. I think there's never been a better time to really try and dig deep and figure that out for young people and choose the right path through all of this.
And so you've been very vocal about humanitarian crisis that is upon us in SA due to COVID-19. And it was a crisis that gave rise to the Big Food Drive. Now, please may you tell us about this initiative?
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing that you bring it up. The Big Food Drive, we started a month ago, just over, and it was kind of in response to what is for sure becoming a growing humanitarian crisis in South Africa, especially with people living on the breadline and just surviving really in this country, often so many people in the best of times. And now we're heading into some of the most brutal times. People are struggling to provide just their most basic needs, providing to get food on the table for their families, for their children. And I just felt like I needed to activate my community in whatever positive ways I could. And so we started a fundraiser called the Big Food Drive, and I forged some partnerships with local farming communities who are growing fresh produce. and a trucking company who are involved in the delivery of that produce. And we just went about seeing, can we start a movement to get fresh produce like potatoes and carrots, tomatoes, onions, lots of spinach and kale to the different soup kitchens that are starting up. And can we be involved in helping bring some extra capacity to the different feeding schemes which are feeding people across the country. And I was so pleasantly surprised. It's been a month. We've raised more than 750,000 Rand already.
And if people are desperate to help, what do you need? Where do you guys fall short? And where can South Africa get involved?
For us, it's just all about getting enough funding in to get us through winter. That's, for me, the big goal was, can we put together a fundraiser and a network of distribution? And so the network of distribution has kind of been the difficult part. So finding the different NGOs on the ground who are doing the work already and making sure one goes, gets into the right spaces to really get to the most vulnerable people, because a lot of the time the most vulnerable people are the ones who aren't able to go and collect their voucher or go, it's often like little children, and it's often the elderly, and it's often undocumented people as well. And so we had quite a lot of work to do, and I put a team together and we went out into the different communities and we actually mapped out a distribution network, so we know that the food we are raising money for every week goes to the right places every week. So that's done. Now it's just about making sure we get enough money in every week so that we can continue to support these different soup kitchens until winter is over. And if people want to help, if people want to lend a hand with us, you can just go to the Big Food Drive, one word, on Instagram. You can also find it on my Jeremy Loops Instagram. I've been posting lots of things about it, or on Facebook. Just called the Big Food Drive, one word.
All that information will also be on Afternoon Express's website, so you can just head over to afternoonexpress.co.za and you can get finding out how you can give back and see us through the winter. Now let's get back to the music, Jeremy. You have completed your eagerly awaited third studio album. So what can fans expect to hear after listening to this album, and how does it differ to your first two studio albums?
Yeah, it's been exciting. Working on this third album has definitely been, also as a result of this lockdown, it's been the longest I've ever had to really finesse the songs. I've had the time to record certain things and go back and re-record them and come up with some more interesting lyrics and go back and re-record them in a way that maybe on my first two albums I didn't have that time, because I was often like racing to get it done and then racing to tour the world. Whereas now my touring has been cancelled for the whole year. So I've had a lot of extra time. I've been just really getting deep into the songs. And so I think that what they can expect is undoubtedly my best work I've ever produced. And unlike some of, maybe my first album where there was a handful of songs that were really great songs and maybe some songs which were just the best songs I had at the time, this new album is absolutely my best songs from start to finish. So I'm really struggling to figure out which ones I like more than others. And that feels really nice, just to end up with a body of work where I can stand behind every single song in there with just full heart.
I mean, Jeremy, South Africa right now is like, what is he talking about? Album 1 and album 2 were straight fire. But okay, we'll take your word for it. If you say that your third studio album is the best, you've promised us a press play. And that just means from number 1 all the way down to the bottom, we cannot skip any track. I'm looking forward to that, Jeremy. Something else I'm looking forward to, though, is Father's Day, which is coming up this weekend. How are you celebrating Father's Day being super close to your father?
I'm not going to give too much away about what, because it is Father's Day and he's not supposed to know. But in my family, we're all about doing things that really mean something. So we don't generally spend a lot of money on each other or buy big gifts. But, it's about trying to do things that really matter to each other. And so we know exactly what really matters to my dad, and we'll make sure to be, plugging into those needs for him on that day.
Okay, we'll keep the rest of it a secret between you and I. I'm sure you're going to have a fantastic weekend, though, with your father and the rest of the family. All the best, Jeremy Noops.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing through the big food drive. And I'm sure South Africans are going to be chasing away, wanting to get stuck in as well this winter. We appreciate it, and God bless. Cheers.
Thank you so much for having me. Peace.
Peace. Speaking about peace, I want to find out, is it peace, love and happiness this weekend in your household? How are you celebrating Father's Day with your loved ones? Head over to our Afternoon Express page and use that hashtag Afternoon Express. And remember, South Africa, being a father doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a biological father. If you are a father figure to anyone, leave those comments.